September 14th, 1962, 11:47 p.m. The Sands Hotel and Casino, Las Vegas, Nevada. The air smells like money and cigarettes and something older than both. Ambition left out in the desert heat too long. The Sands is not merely a hotel on this particular Friday night. It is a cathedral. And like all cathedrals, it has its god. 312 people are inside the Copa Room, the legendary showroom that Jack Entrata built to be the crown jewel of American entertainment. The chandeliers are throwing warm gold light across tables covered in white linen. Champagne is being poured with the casual extravagance of a man lighting a cigarette with $100 bill. The women are immaculate, the men are in their finest suits, and at the center of it all, on a stage that has known Sammy Davis Jr., Dean Martin and Lena Horne, stands Frank Albert Sinatra. He is 46 years old. He is wearing a charcoal tuxedo with a white pocket square folded into a perfect three-point crown. He is holding a glass of Jack Daniels in his left hand. He is mid-sentence, mid-laugh actually, and when Francis Albert Sinatra laughs in the middle of a story, the world stops rotating just slightly, just enough for you to feel it. He is telling a story about Ava Gardner. He will never finish it. Because at 11:47 p.m. and 32 seconds, a man named Senator Raymond L. Carver III of the great state of Nevada stands up from table 7, the table nearest the left side exit, the table given to political guests and mid-level dignitaries, the table that is not table 1, and he raises his voice above the music, above the laughter, above the golden haze of 300 perfect minutes, and he says 7 words that will end him. Sit down, Sinatra. You're just a singer. The room does not go quiet. Rooms do not go quiet. That is a figure of speech invented by people who have never been in a room when something truly catastrophic happens. What actually occurs is this. Sound evaporates. It does not fade. It does not dim. It vanishes, as if someone reached behind the universe and pulled a cord. 312 people simultaneously hold their breath. The cigarette smoke keeps moving. Nothing else does. Senator Carver is 61 years old. He has been in the Nevada state legislature for 11 years. He has the ruddy face of a man who golfs in the afternoon and drinks at night. He is wearing a brown suit that cost more than a waiter's monthly salary, and he is smiling, genuinely smiling, the smile of a man who has spent decades learning that his position protects him from consequence. He is wrong about that. He has always been wrong about that. He simply hasn't been corrected yet. Frank Sinatra turns. He turns slowly, not slowly the way a man turns when he is surprised. Slowly the way a man turns when he already knew this was coming, when he clocked this particular fool the moment he walked into the room, calculated the precise percentage chance that something like this would happen, and filed the outcome away in the part of his mind that other people use for nightmares. He looks at Senator Carver for exactly 4 seconds. 4 seconds is a long time. Count it yourself. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then Frank Sinatra, the chairman of the board, the voice, the man who has sold 80 million records, who has dined with the President of the United States, who has made grown men weep and women forget their own names, takes a slow sip of his Jack Daniels, sets the glass down, adjusts his pocket square with 2 fingers, the way a general straightens his medals before a formal review, and smiles, not at Senator Carver. Frank Sinatra does not smile at Senator Carver. He smiles past him, at the room, at the 311 other people who are watching with their hearts in their throats, and that smile carries a message that every single person in the Copa Room receives simultaneously, like a radio signal, like a telegraph from God. The message is this: this man's education begins now. To understand what Senator Carver did on the night of September 14th, 1962, you first need to understand what Frank Sinatra was, not who he was. The biographies have covered that in sufficient detail. You need to understand what he was. Because men like Raymond Carver make the fatal error of looking at a man and seeing only the surfaced category. They see entertainer. And that word, that insufficient, reductive, dangerous word, becomes the wall they build between themselves and the truth. The truth is more complicated. The truth is always more complicated. Francis Albert Sinatra was born on December 12, 1915, in Hoboken, New Jersey, a city that smells like the river and industrial ambition and the weight of people who crossed an ocean to become American. He was born blue, the doctors said. He was born not breathing. His grandmother held him under cold water until he screamed. He has been screaming since, but in the way that turned screaming into music. He grew up watching his father tend bar and his mother run a neighborhood political operation that would have been recognizable to Tammany Hall. Dolly Sinatra was a woman who understood that power was not given. It was assembled, piece by piece, like a watch. You collected favors. You remembered names. You showed up to funerals and weddings, and you never forgot. The politicians came to Dolly. The police came to Dolly. And Dolly's son watched and listened and filed it away. This is important. This is the part the history books miss. Frank Sinatra did not learn power from the mafia, though he certainly knew men in the mafia. He did not learn it from Hollywood, though he navigated Hollywood like a chess grandmaster. He learned it from a 4'11" woman from Genoa who ran a Democratic ward in Hudson County, New Jersey, who taught him that the most powerful thing in any room was information, and the second most powerful thing was memory. By 1962, Sinatra has been famous for 20 years. He has weathered a career collapse in the early 1950s, the years when Columbia Records dropped him, when MGM ended his contract, when the gossip columns wrote him off as a has-been, and he has not merely recovered, he has done something far more interesting. He has reconstructed himself from the ground up, this time with architecture instead of instinct. He formed his own record label. He formed his own production company. He negotiated his own deals, refusing standard contracts that would have cost him the masters to his recordings. He did this not because lawyers told him to. He did it because he understood, viscerally, in his bones, that the man who owns the masters owns the music, and the man who owns the music never truly loses. By 1962, Frank Sinatra's financial architecture looks like this. Capitol Records distribution deal, but Sinatra owns the masters through Reprise Records, which he founded in 1960. Partial ownership stake in the Sands Hotel, not a large stake, but a real one, and more importantly, a documented one, with his name on a board. Film production through Essex Productions, music publishing through Barton Music, and a web of personal relationships that extends from the Oval Office to the Precinct House to the Union Halls to the Vatican. He is not a singer who got lucky. He is an institution that learned to sing. And then there is the other thing. The thing that Raymond Carver, sitting at table 7 in his brown suit, has entirely failed to account for. Frank Sinatra is, at his core, a man of loyalty. Not the transactional loyalty of men who keep score. Not the conditional loyalty of men who love you when you are useful. He is loyal in the old Italian way, the Hoboken way, the way that means you show up at a man's door at 3 in the morning when his wife has left him, and you bring a bottle of whiskey, and you don't say anything clever, you just sit there, because that is what a friend does. He is loyal to the men who cooked at the Sands. He is loyal to the elevator operators and the hat-check girls and the cab drivers who waited outside in the heat. He tips extravagantly, not to show off, but because he remembers what it felt like to have nothing. This loyalty runs in both directions, which means that in Las Vegas in 1962 there are several thousand people, cooks, drivers, dealers, musicians, waitstaff, union members, stage managers, sound engineers, hotel workers from the Sands and the Desert Inn and the Flamingo, who would do almost anything Frank Sinatra asked without question, not because he pays them, because he sees them. Senator Raymond Carver, sitting at table 7, has never in his life truly seen a waiter. This will matter. This will matter enormously. September 14th, 1962. Midnight. The same room. The Copa Room has found its sound again. Not the warm, golden sound of before. A different sound, cautious, fragile, like a crystal glass that has been cracked and is being held very carefully. The show has resumed. Sinatra has picked up his story about Ava Gardner, and he is telling it, and people are laughing because he is making them laugh, because he is a professional of the highest order, and he does not break in public. But Jack Entrata, who has been running the Copa room since 1952, and who knows more about the temperature of a room than any thermometer ever invented, is watching Sinatra's eyes, and Jack Entrata sees something he has seen only twice before in 10 years. He sees the calculation. The still, deep, architectural calculation of a man who has already decided what to do and is simply waiting for the appropriate moment to begin. Senator Raymond L. Carver III is, at this particular moment, accepting a drink from a cocktail waitress named Maria Espinosa. He is laughing at something his aide, a young man named Douglas Fitch, has said. He appears entirely comfortable. He has already forgotten what he said. This is how men like Raymond Carver move through the world. They say things and then forget them because there have never been any consequences for what they say. It is worth pausing here to understand Raymond Carver in full, because you cannot understand Frank Sinatra's response without understanding precisely what he was responding to. Raymond L. Carver III is the son of Raymond L. Carver Jr., who was the son of Raymond L. Carver Sr. 3 generations of Nevada money, land money, water rights money, the particular kind of desert money that looks like dust on the outside and gold on the inside. The Carvers have been involved in Nevada politics since statehood. Raymond III went to Stanford, then to Georgetown Law, then to a firm in Reno that handled mining interests, and then, inevitably, into the state legislature, where he has served for 11 years on the strength of his family name, his family money, and his family's relationships with the men who run the machines that count votes in Clark County. He is, by every measurable standard of his world, a man of consequence. He is also a man who has spent 47 years confusing inherited importance with earned respect. This is the most dangerous confusion a person can make. Inherited importance is a building. Earned respect is the ground it stands on. Raymond Carver has a beautiful building. He has always assumed the ground was there. The ground is about to be removed. What happened earlier that evening, before the show, provides the necessary context that 312 witnesses will carry with them for the rest of their lives. Senator Carver arrived at the Sands at 6 p.m. for a pre-dinner reception hosted by the Nevada Hotel Association. He arrived, as was his custom, slightly late enough to be noticed, not so late as to be rude. He had 3 aides with him. He had, in the past 3 months, been the primary obstacle to a Clark County labor agreement that would have given Sands Hotel employees, including the Copa room staff, a 10% wage increase and improved health benefits. He had done this not because of ideology. He had done it because the hotel's majority ownership had made certain contributions to his campaign fund, and this is how the world works. Or, at least, how Raymond Carver's world works. Maria Espinosa had been working the Copa room for 4 years. She made $240 a month. She had a son in elementary school and a mother in a Reno nursing home. The blocked wage agreement would have meant an extra $24 a month for Maria Espinosa. That is not a trivial sum. That is school books. That is medication. That is the difference between making it to the end of the month with something left over or making it to the end of the month with nothing. Frank Sinatra knew this. Not because he had reviewed the labor agreement in detail, he had not. But because when he walked into the Copa room that afternoon for sound check, he had asked Maria how she was doing, and Maria, who was tired and who trusted Sinatra the way you trust a person who has always been kind to you, told him the truth. Senator Carver's blocking the wage deal again, Mr. Sinatra. We're not going to see that raise. Sinatra had nodded, had said nothing in particular, had gone to sound check, and at 11:47 p.m., when Raymond Carver stood up in his brown suit and called him just a singer, Frank Sinatra had, in the space of those 4 seconds of looking at him, added that information to everything else he already knew, and he had made a decision. At 12:03 a.m., September 15, 1962, Frank Sinatra left the stage to a standing ovation. He took 3 bows. He thanked Jack Entrata. He thanked the band. He smiled at the room with the full power of that smile, the one that makes you feel, for just a moment, that you are the only person in the world. He did not look at Senator Carver. He went to his suite on the 9th floor of the Sands. He called for a bottle of Jack Daniels and a telephone. Room service delivered both within 6 minutes. At 12:09 a.m., he picked up the telephone and dialed the first number. The 48-hour clock had started. September 15th, 1962, 12:09 a.m., Suite 912, the Sands Hotel. Here is what you must understand about Frank Sinatra's suite at the Sands. It is not a hotel room. It is a command center that happens to have a bed in it. The phone lines have been upgraded at his personal request. There is a bar that he stocked himself. There are books, Machiavelli, Marcus Aurelius, a well-worn copy of The Art of War translated by Lionel Giles that he has read so many times the spine has separated. There are notebooks. Sinatra keeps notebooks, not for songs, though sometimes for songs, for names, for information, for the particular geography of who owes what to whom. He sits in a chair by the window. Las Vegas glitters below him like a spilled jewelry box. He is still in his tuxedo shirt, jacket off, tie loosened by exactly half an inch, cuffs rolled to the elbow with the precision of a man who does everything precisely. He does not call a lawyer first. He does not call a fixer. He does not call anyone who owes him money or fear him. He calls the person who knows the most. He calls Jilly Rizzo. Jilly Rizzo is Frank Sinatra's best friend, his aide-de-camp, his chief of intelligence. He runs a restaurant in New York. He has spent 20 years learning the geography of obligation, who is in debt to who has secrets, who can be moved and how. He is not glamorous, he is not famous, he is indispensable. Jilly picks up on the first ring. It is 3 a.m. in New York. Jilly, yeah, Raymond Carver. State Senator, Nevada. I need everything. A pause. How deep? Below the foundation. Give me 4 hours. Sinatra hangs up. He pours 2 fingers of Jack Daniels. He sits in the chair and he looks at Las Vegas and he does not feel anger. He feels something cleaner than anger. He feels interest. The kind of interest a chess player feels when an opponent makes a move that reveals the entire shape of their thinking. He called me just a singer, Sinatra thinks. Good. Let him keep thinking that. At 4:14 a.m., Jilly calls back. The information is comprehensive. Sinatra makes notes in his notebook, in the shorthand only he can read. What Jilly has compiled in 4 hours, through a network of contacts that spans New York, Washington, and Nevada, is the following. Senator Raymond L. Carver III has a 30-year mortgage on his family's primary Reno residence, financed through Nevada State Savings and Trust. The president of Nevada State Savings and Trust is a man named Harold Brennan, who has, on 3 separate occasions in the past decade, attended fundraisers held at the Sands Hotel, 2 of which Frank Sinatra attended personally. Senator Carver's primary campaign consulting firm is Apex Political Associates, headquartered in Carson City. The senior partner of Apex Political Associates is George Whitfield, who is a member of the Bel Air Country Club in Los Angeles. The Bel Air Country Club's entertainment committee has, for the past 3 years, been trying to book Frank Sinatra for a private event. Senator Carver's private legal counsel, not his campaign attorney, but the man who handles his personal business, his land deals and his trust, is Arthur Kessler of Kessler & Mann, a firm in Reno. Arthur Kessler graduated from Georgetown Law in 1948. His classmate and closest friend from Georgetown Law is Mike Romanoff, who runs Romanoff's restaurant in Beverly Hills, which is Frank Sinatra's preferred Los Angeles dining establishment, a place where Sinatra has been eating for 15 years, where his regular table is always held, where Mike Romanoff's daughter calls Frank Sinatra Uncle Frank. Senator Carver's chief political supporter and primary fundraiser is Congressman Harold Dewey of Nevada's 2nd District. Congressman Dewey's re-election campaign next year requires union endorsements. The primary union covering Southwestern hospitality workers, the union whose membership includes the Sands Hotel staff, including Maria Espinosa, is the Hotel and Restaurant Employees International Union, Local 226. The local union president is Thomas DeLuca, who has been eating dinner at Jilly's restaurant in New York City every time he comes to Manhattan for the past 6 years. Every single person between Raymond Carver and the outside world knows Frank Sinatra, owes Frank Sinatra, or eats at a table Frank Sinatra has touched. Sinatra closes his notebook. He takes a long sip of his Jack Daniels. He looks out at Las Vegas, which is beginning, very faintly, in the east, to show the first pale suggestion of dawn. He says nothing for a long moment. Then he says, to no one, 48 hours. At 7 a.m. on September 15th, Frank Sinatra makes 3 phone calls. The first is to Harold Brennan, president of Nevada State Savings and Trust. They have not spoken in 8 months. The conversation lasts 11 minutes. Its content is between them. What can be confirmed is that Harold Brennan, a man who has built his professional reputation on caution and institutional conservatism, hangs up the phone and immediately cancels his 9 o'clock meeting with his loan officers. The second call is to Mike Romanoff in Beverly Hills. This call lasts 4 minutes. Mike Romanoff, who loves Frank Sinatra with the sincere and uncomplicated affection of a man who has watched him be generous without condition for 15 years, asks only one question: "What do you need?" Sinatra tells him. Romanoff says, "Consider it done." The third call is to Thomas DeLuca at the Union Hall. This call lasts 22 minutes, and it covers the blocked wage agreement, the 10% raise, the health benefits for 387 Sands Hotel employees, including 14 who have been on the job for over a decade without a real raise since 1958. It also covers something else, a particular provision in the Hotel Employees Union bylaws regarding the political endorsement process, and the specific conditions under which a previously offered endorsement can be formally reconsidered. Thomas DeLuca, who has known Sinatra for 9 years, who knows that Sinatra does not call about business unless it matters, says, "Frank, this guy, is he the one? He's the one. Then we're going to have a conversation." By 9:30 a.m., the chessboard has been set. The pieces have not yet moved, but the game has already been decided. September 15th, 1962, 10 a.m. The Sands Hotel lobby. Senator Raymond L. Carver III wakes at 9, orders breakfast to his room, and spends an hour reviewing briefing notes for a committee meeting the following week. He is in excellent spirits. The Copa room was good last night. He enjoyed the show. He vaguely recalls saying something to that singer. What was it? Oh yes, he smiles at the memory. He had been drinking well and feeling expansive, feeling the particular social freedom that comes when you are Raymond Carver at a table near the exit of the most glamorous room in Las Vegas, and you can say what you want. He is not worried. Why would he be worried? He dresses and goes down to the lobby. At the front desk, he asks about extending his stay by 1 night. The desk manager, a polite young man whose name tag reads Stephen, checks the system and regrets to inform the senator that his suite 406, has been booked for the following evening. There is another guest arriving. He would be happy to provide the senator with a standard room. Senator Carver is mildly irritated. He is accustomed to the suites. He accepts the downgrade with the slight stiffness of a man being told something beneath his dignity, and he goes to meet his aide, Douglas Fitch, for a working lunch. At 12:17 p.m., his campaign consultant, George Whitfield, calls from Carson City. George Whitfield, who is normally a man of relentless positivity and aggressive optimism, sounds, for the first time in Raymond Carver's memory, slightly uncertain. It seems there has been a development. The entertainment committee at the Bel Air Country Club, the one whose relationship with Apex Political Associates has been a quiet but useful professional arrangement, has communicated through a mutual acquaintance that they are reconsidering their association with the firm. The reason given is vague, something about fit. "It's probably nothing," George Whitfield says. "Of course it is," Raymond Carver says. "But there is a needle of something, not worry exactly, more like a very faint vibration, the way you feel a distant train before you can hear it, that enters Raymond Carver's afternoon and stays there." At 2:45 p.m., Senator Carver's personal attorney, Arthur Kessler, calls. The call is about a completely different matter, a land deal in Washoe County that has been in process for several months. But Arthur Kessler, who is generally a man of smooth competence and unruffled professionalism, sounds slightly off. There is a hesitation in his voice that is not normally there. He mentions, almost in passing, that he had lunch with Mike Romanoff last week in Beverly Hills. No, he corrects himself, it was a phone call, not lunch. And Mike had mentioned something about a client who had experienced a difficulty in Las Vegas recently. Nothing specific. What client? Senator Carver asks. He didn't say. The vibration is slightly stronger now. Still not worry, still just that faint awareness of something moving in the distance. At 4:30 p.m., Senator Carver's aide, Douglas Fitch, receives a call from the office of Congressman Harold Dewey. The congressman would like to speak with the senator at his earliest convenience. It is described as urgent but not alarming. This is how Washington people describe things that are alarming. Urgent but not alarming. The congressman is available after 6 p.m. Senator Carver arrives at his meeting with Congressman Dewey at the Desert Inn bar at 6:15 p.m. Congressman Dewey is a large man with a politician's careful face, the face that has learned to reveal nothing while seeming to reveal everything. He is already halfway through a scotch. The congressman comes to the point with a directness that surprises Carver. Raymond, I've been getting calls all day about the hotel workers' wage agreement. Harold, that's settled. It's not settled. Local 226 is reconsidering its endorsement position for both of us. The silence that follows is a different quality of silence than the one in the Copa room the night before. This silence has weight. This silence has financial dimensions. Why now? Carver asks. I don't know. But Raymond Carver is beginning to know. He is beginning to feel, for the first time, the faint shape of something he cannot yet name. September 15th, 1962, 9 p.m. Sinatra has spent the day in Suite 912. He has eaten room service. He has read. He has made approximately 14 phone calls. He has not, at any point, raised his voice. He has not called a reporter. He has not spoken to anyone about Senator Carver, by name or by implication. Every call has been, on its surface, entirely normal. A friend calling another friend, a business associate touching base, a man maintaining the living, breathing network of relationships he has spent 46 years assembling. He has simply activated it. Jack Entrata stops by the suite at 9 p.m. with a bottle of good wine and the specific expression of a man who has been watching something extraordinary happen from a perfect vantage point. The senator's having a bad day, I hear, Entrata says. Sinatra pours 2 glasses. Is he? Something about the union deal, and his consultant lost a client, and his lawyer is nervous. Sinatra hands Entrata a glass. Jack, he says, you know what the difference is between a singer and a conductor? Entrata waits. The conductor never makes a sound himself. He just tells everyone else when to play. September 16th, 1962, 8 a.m. Senator Carver's room, the Sands Hotel. Senator Raymond L. Carver III does not sleep well. He lies in his now standard room, not the suite, the standard room, and feels the ceiling press down on him with a peculiar intimacy that has nothing to do with the room's dimensions. At 8 a.m. his phone begins. It does not stop for 4 hours. The first call is from Harold Brennan at Nevada State Savings and Trust. The mortgage on the Reno property, the family home, the 30-year note, has entered a routine administrative review. There are some documentation questions, nothing alarming, but these things take time. In the interim, there may be a hold on certain associated accounts. Carver sits up in bed. What kind of hold? Routine, Senator. Purely routine. The second call is from George Whitfield. The Bel Air connection is confirmed lost. More urgently, 2 of Apex Political Associates' Nevada clients have called in the past 12 hours asking to revisit their relationships with the firm. Whitfield cannot explain this. The clients give vague reasons. They seem embarrassed. The third call is from Arthur Kessler. The Washoe County land deal is complicated by a title search issue that has emerged. It is almost certainly resolvable, but it will require time, perhaps 3 to 6 weeks, perhaps more. By 10:30 a.m., Senator Carver is sitting on the edge of his standard hotel bed in his undershirt, and he is experiencing something he has not experienced in perhaps 20 years, the physical sensation of his carefully constructed world experiencing simultaneous pressure from multiple directions. Nothing has collapsed, nothing is destroyed. Each individual thing is, by itself, minor. A documentation review, a lost client, a title issue, a union reconsideration, but they are all happening at the same time. And Raymond Carver is not a stupid man. He is, in many ways, exactly as intelligent as his education and his position would suggest. And in the space between the third call and the fourth, he sits on the edge of that bed, and he thinks, and he arrives, slowly, at the name he has been circling since last night. At 11:15 a.m., Senator Carver does something that is simultaneously the correct instinct and the wrong execution. He tries to find out what is happening. He calls a contact at the Hotel Employees Union, not Thomas DeLuca, but a lower-level official he has occasionally worked with. The official is polite. He is also, in the way of people who have been given precise instructions about what to say and what not to say, extremely non-informative. The reconsideration of the endorsement process is procedural. It reflects member input. He cannot say more at this time. Carver calls George Whitfield back and asks him directly, "Is there anyone who might have a reason to be making calls? Anyone with influence over unions and banks and law firms?" Whitfield is quiet for a moment. "Raymond," he says, "what exactly happened at the Copa Room on Friday night?" The silence from Carver's end of the line is its own answer. "Raymond, it was nothing. I had a few drinks. I said something to Sinatra. It was, 'What did you say?' Another silence. I told him to sit down. I said he was just a singer." The sound that comes from George Whitfield's end of the line is not quite a groan and not quite a laugh. It is the sound of a man absorbing information that reorganizes everything he thought he understood about the past 36 hours. "Raymond," Whitfield says, with great care, "how well do you know Frank Sinatra?" "I don't know him." "No," Whitfield says, "that is very clearly the problem." September 16th, 1962, 2 p.m. Lobby, the Sands Hotel. Sinatra comes downstairs at 2 p.m. He is dressed simply, dark slacks, a cream-colored shirt, a navy sport coat. He looks, for all the world, like a man on vacation. He is carrying a newspaper under his arm. He stops at the front desk to speak with Stephen, the desk manager. He asks about a friend's reservation. He tells a brief, amusing story about a gig in Chicago. He laughs. Stephen laughs. 3 hotel guests standing nearby, recognizing Sinatra, are close enough to be charmed by proximity. He moves to the lobby bar. He orders coffee, not alcohol, coffee, and reads the newspaper with the unhurried attention of a man who has nowhere particular to be. Maria Espinosa passes through the lobby on her way to the afternoon shift. She sees Sinatra at the bar. She nods, the small, respectful nod of an employee in the presence of someone who is technically not her employer, but whose presence in her workplace has always felt, inexplicably, like protection. Sinatra sees her. He raises his coffee cup, a small salute. He has not said Raymond Carver's name to a single person outside of the phone calls to Jilly. He has not announced any action. He has not made any threats. He has simply, over the course of 38 hours, placed gentle and entirely plausible pressure on every professional relationship surrounding Senator Carver, not by demanding anything, but by calling in the natural currency of 15 years of genuine human connection and allowing the mathematics of mutual interest to work itself out. This is the thing they never tell you about power. The men who have it most completely never need to use it loudly. At 2:45 p.m., Senator Raymond L. Carver III enters the lobby with his aide Douglas Fitch. He is heading to a car that will take him to a meeting. He does not initially see Sinatra. Then he does. Sinatra is reading his newspaper. He does not look up immediately. He takes his time, a full 5 seconds, before lifting his eyes over the top of the paper and meeting Raymond Carver's gaze. He does not say anything. He does not gesture. He does not show anger or triumph or anything that could be described in subsequent accounts as threatening. He simply looks at Carver, and then, very slowly, he returns to his newspaper. Senator Carver stands in the lobby of the Sands Hotel for 3 seconds that feel, to Douglas Fitch standing beside him, like watching a man encounter something in a dark room that he cannot name. Then Carver walks to his car. He does not speak during the drive. September 16th, 1962, 6 p.m., Carson City, Nevada. The phone call that ends the 48 hours comes at 6 p.m. It comes not to Senator Carver, but to Douglas Fitch, who is 26 years old and who has, in the past 36 hours, aged visibly. Thomas DeLuca, president of Local 226, calls to inform Fitch that the union is formally withdrawing its endorsement reconsideration, not because the situation has been resolved, but because they are instead moving to actively endorse the primary challenger who has been organizing in Carver's district for the past several months. Additionally, the union intends to formally submit to the county commission a petition supporting the immediate passage of the blocked wage agreement, which 3 commissioner signatures are already prepared to support. Fitch delivers this information to Carver. Carver says nothing. At 7:30 p.m., Arthur Kessler calls to say that the title search issue on the Washoe County land deal is more complex than initially anticipated. There are also questions about the documentation on a secondary property. He will need to engage an additional specialist. At 8:15 p.m., Harold Brennan at Nevada State Savings and Trust calls personally to say that the administrative review has uncovered a technical discrepancy that will require an in-person meeting. At the senator's earliest convenience, he is sorry for the inconvenience. At 9 p.m., Raymond L. Carver III sits in his office in Carson City, Nevada, with a glass of scotch that has been sitting in front of him for 40 minutes, and he begins to understand the full shape of what has happened to him. Not a war. There was no war. No dramatic confrontation. No threats. No violence. No scandal revealed. No crime exposed. Simply a network of relationships activated like a circuit board, redirecting the flow of professional goodwill away from him and toward anyone else. No individual action is illegal. No individual action is even, strictly speaking, hostile. But the accumulation, the aggregate effect of 38 hours of Frank Sinatra making phone calls the way other men breathe, has left Raymond Carver standing on professional ground that is no longer firm, not destroyed, not yet, but exposed. The way a low tide exposes what is normally hidden, the way winter exposes the bones of the tree, and Raymond Carver knows, with the absolute certainty of a man who has spent his career reading political weather, that what has been exposed will not be easily covered again. September 17th, 1962, 9 a.m., Suite 912, the Sands Hotel, Las Vegas. Sinatra wakes at 8. He orders breakfast. He reads the newspaper. He calls his daughter Nancy. He speaks with his producer at Reprise Records about a track he has been working on, a particular arrangement of The Best Is Yet to Come that isn't quite right yet, that needs something in the string section, a specific quality of yearning that he can hear in his head, but that the arrangers haven't found yet. He does not make any phone calls related to Senator Carver. There is nothing left to do. At 10 a.m., Jack Entrona comes by. He brings a copy of the morning newspaper and 2 cups of coffee. He does not immediately speak about what has been happening. They sit by the window. Sinatra eats the last of his breakfast. The wage agreement, Entrata says finally. The hotel's ownership is going to accept it. Sinatra nods. 387 employees. Effective November 1st. November 1st is good, Sinatra says, before the holidays. Entrata looks at him. You know it wasn't just the senator, Frank. It was the owners. They were the ones blocking it. The owners are practical men, Sinatra says. I had a conversation with one of them on Saturday morning. Practical men respond to practical conversations. What did you say? Sinatra smiles at his coffee cup. I said I was planning to be in Las Vegas quite a lot this year. and that I had several friends in the entertainment business who might be interested in performing at the Sands, and that, naturally, it would be much more pleasant to be associated with a hotel that treats its people well. Entrata stares at him. That's it? That's it. Frank, the man insulted you in front of 300 people. He called you, I know what he called me, Sinatra says. A pause. And you just, Jack. Sinatra sets down his coffee cup. He looks out at Las Vegas, which is bright and ordinary and real in the September morning light. I'm not interested in what he called me. What I'm interested in is 387 people getting a raise before Christmas. That's what I'm interested in. For the record, since history deserves specificity, Senator Raymond L. Carver III returned to Carson City on the morning of September 17, 1962. He did not resign immediately. He did not collapse immediately. Men like Raymond Carver do not operate at that dramatic tempo. What happened was slower and more complete. The wage agreement at the Sands Hotel was ratified in October 1962. 387 employees received their raises effective November 1st, as Sinatra had specified. Maria Espinosa's extra $24 a month started the week before Thanksgiving. The Hotel and Restaurant Employees International Union, Local 226, formally endorsed Carver's primary challenger, a younger man from Clark County named James Ortega, who had been organizing among service workers for 3 years, in early 1963. The endorsement was significant not because of the union's direct vote count, but because of the momentum it created. Endorsements in political life are information signals. They tell other decision-makers which way the wind is moving. George Whitfield's firm, Apex Political Associates, quietly wound down its Nevada operations over the following year. The Bel Air Country Club's Entertainment Committee booked Frank Sinatra for their annual gala in March 1963. The check was substantial. Arthur Kessler's documentation problems with the Washoe County land deal were real, it turned out. The title search had uncovered a genuine discrepancy in the property records that required 18 months to fully resolve, during which time the deal fell through. This was not engineered by anyone. It was simply the universe demonstrating that a man whose foundation is unstable does not need an enemy to fall. Harold Brennan's administrative review at Nevada State Savings and Trust concluded in November 1962. The mortgage on the Reno property was in perfect order. No action was required. But during the process of the review, the bank's internal auditors flagged several other transactions in Carver's associated business accounts for what were described as routine compliance questions. These questions were answered. They took time to answer. Raymond Carver ran for re-election in 1964. He lost his primary to James Ortega by 6 percentage points. He was 63 years old. He did not run again. He returned to private practice, handling land and water rights for mining interests, the work his grandfather had done, the work he had always been training to return to. He lived another 22 years. He is not remembered in the history of Nevada politics, except as a footnote, and even that footnote does not mention the Copa Room, or the 7 words, or the 48 hours. History, like most things, is not interested in the precise mechanism of a man's undoing. But 387 hotel workers in Las Vegas got a raise before Christmas 1962, and that is in the record too, if you know where to look. The question that matters, the question that every person who was in the Copa Room that night eventually arrived at, in their own time and in their own way, is why, not how. The how is almost mechanical once you understand what Sinatra had assembled over 46 years. The how is logistics and relationships and the particular advantage of a man who has spent his life building genuine human connection rather than transactional alliance. The why is the harder question. There are easier answers. He was insulted. His ego was bruised. He was defending his territory. These answers are not untrue, but they are not sufficient. They do not explain why the first call he made after Jilly delivered the intelligence was to Thomas DeLuca about the wage agreement. They do not explain why, when Jack Entrata asked him about the senator's insult the morning after, Sinatra redirected every response back to the 387 employees and away from himself. The closest answer, the truest answer, which is the kind of answer that is always more complicated than comfortable, is this. Frank Sinatra understood, with the bone-deep understanding of a man from Hoboken who grew up watching his mother navigate power, that dignity is not divisible. You cannot protect your own dignity while failing to protect the dignity of the people around you. The moment you treat your own honor as more important than the honor of the people who serve your food and drive your car and clean your room, you have not protected your dignity, you have transformed it into vanity. And vanity is just arrogance wearing dignity's clothes. Senator Carver had called him just a singer. But the reason that seven-word sentence landed where it landed was not because it diminished Sinatra's status. It was because it was said that way, at that volume, in that room, in front of Maria Espinosa, who was carrying a tray of drinks, in front of the band, who were working men, in front of the staff, who worked the room. And those 7 words, directed at Sinatra, carried a subtext that everyone in that room could hear perfectly clearly. The people who entertain you and serve you are beneath consideration. Stay in your place. That was the sentence Sinatra was answering, the sentence under the sentence. Because the thing about Frank Sinatra, the thing that distinguishes him from the merely powerful, from the merely famous, from the merely successful, is that he never forgot where he came from, and he never allowed himself to forget that the people who cook the food and pour the drinks and park the cars are doing the same work his father did, the same work his cousins and neighbors and childhood friends did. The Sands Hotel was not ultimately his building. But those 387 people were, in the most important sense, his people. Not because he owned them or controlled them, because he saw them, he knew their names, he tipped them with cash, and without performance, he asked how they were doing, and he meant it. And when a man in a brown suit stood up and reminded the room what the hierarchy was, who mattered, and who was merely there to serve, Sinatra did the only thing available to a man of his particular kind of power. He made the correction. 40 years later, in a profile for a Las Vegas magazine, Jack Entrata's daughter was asked about her memories of Sinatra at the Sands. She said, "My father always said that Frank understood something that most powerful men never figure out. He understood that power isn't a wall, it's a web. A wall keeps things out. A web connects everything to everything else. A wall, you just go around. A web, there's no going around a web. You're either in it or you're not." The Copa Room closed with the Sands Hotel in 1996. The building was demolished in November of that year. The workers who received the 1962 wage agreement were among the first in Nevada's hospitality industry to receive employer-sponsored health benefits, which followed as part of a subsequent negotiation in 1963. Frank Sinatra performed at the Copa Room 107 times over the course of his relationship with the Sands. He always requested that Maria Espinosa be assigned to Table 1 service on his opening nights. He always called her by her name. They will tell you that power is the ability to make people do what you want. They are wrong. Power is the ability to make people do what they already wanted to do, and to arrange things so that what they already wanted to do happens to be what you need. Senator Raymond Carver didn't lose because Frank Sinatra destroyed him. He lost because Frank Sinatra made one phone call to a union president, one phone call to a lawyer's best friend, one phone call to a banker who remembered a favor, and in doing so, he simply removed himself from the architecture that had been silently supporting a man who had never built anything of his own. Raymond Carver fell not because he was pushed. He fell because the thing he was standing on turned out to be someone else's goodwill, and that goodwill had been extended to the wrong man. Frank Sinatra did not spend 48 hours destroying a senator. He spent 48 hours ensuring that the 387 people who served the food and poured the drinks and parked the cars at the Sands Hotel, Las Vegas, Nevada, had enough money to buy their children Christmas presents in December 1962. Everything else was arithmetic. The chairman never raised his voice. He simply conducted the room, and the room played exactly what he asked it to play. Anonymous, attributed to those who were there.